Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome you at our FP&A Trends Webinar. My name is Olga Rudakova. I'm FP&A professional, data storytelling and dashboard design trainer. I'm happy to host this event brought to you by FP&A Trends. Today's topic is human and AI synergy in FP&A. And that topic has attracted 340 registrations from 45 different countries. Let's jump in and have a look at our agenda for today. First of all, we have an introduction to the topic, and then we will have two practical examples of AI application and in FP&A. We'll have a case study from VMware, and we will have another case study from ETH Zurich Public University there. After that, we'll have a technology section devoted to the role of technology in enhancing FP&A. We'll have conclusions, recommendations, and certainly Q&A session. It is time for me now to introduce to you our speakers for the evening. We'll have three experts joining us tonight. The first one will be Alex Eraso. Alex is a former senior director at Global Business Unit FP&A at VMware. Alex is a senior finance leader with expertise in strategy, operations, and analytics. Alex, thank you for joining us tonight.
Glad to be here.
Our second speaker today will be Stefan Spiegel. He's a CFO at ETH Zurich. Stefan has over 20 years of experience as CFO, head of controlling and project manager. Stefan, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
And the last speaker for the evening will be Greg Volpe, Solution Marketing Director at Workday. Greg has over 26 years of experience focused on working with FP&A teams to transform their planning processes with leading technology. Greg, I'm happy to have you here tonight.
Thank you, Olga. Looking forward to the discussion today. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, me too. And it's time actually to say thank you as well to our technology sponsor, Workday. We help you solve your greatest business challenges. Let me briefly introduce FP&A Group to you as well. You are here, so you are joining our webinar and you are part of our digital community. Besides that, we have quite big face-to-face community present in 32 cities, 18 countries, and 4 continents. And more than that, we have a broad spectrum of research and consulting facilities, so certainly check our website for that as well. What we can expect tonight. We have 1 hour session ahead of us. You will participate in 2 interactive polls on the webinar subject. After that, we'll have Q&A sessions so you can ask questions via the chat box right away. Presentation is already available in handouts, and you will receive the recording and the presentation after the meeting. At the end, please don't leave very fast. Fill in brief survey after this session. Your feedback is very valuable to us. And that brings me to the first introductory slide I wanted to share with you. I want to start with a quote from Saurabh Jain from Siemens. What he said is that by 2030, 38.6 million potential FTEs to be displaced by automation. And storytelling with data would be a skill differentiator for the FP&A professional of the future. And this quote is quite interesting for me in both its parts. The first of all, what really artificial intelligence will do with our jobs? Will it really displace them? That's something to discuss with our panelists. And another part, while storytelling is certainly a skill that we want to have in future as FP&A professionals, but are there any other skills that help us to distinguish ourselves from artificial intelligence today. So something that we'll cover as well. And a bit of statistics at the beginning. That comes from our FP&A Trends survey. What we have noticed that adoption of predictive analytics and machine learning over the years is actually, we can say, declining. More and more companies are skeptical towards artificial intelligence. Actually, more and more companies have no plans to adopt it at all or sees no value in it. Maybe we can change these grim statistics today. Let's see. Our first person to affect your opinions will be Alex Eraso. Alex will speak about VMware practical experience in AA application in FP&A. Alex, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So today what we want to do first is to talk about all this terminology and the AI techniques, as well as the implication, the mapping to the FP&A practice. So here you see at the beginning on the left, a collection of characterizations of the different techniques that are using AI. You see the columns. We talk about supervised learning, which is really the practice of using all these several methods and mathematics to identify information and find patterns when we know already in advance what should be the correct or the specific label that we will use with them. That's what we call supervised information, like looking at an invoice, billing, and knowing, yeah, this is the correct type of format template to use a billing or not. Sometimes we know very little about information, so we just let the system follow with certain rules to identify really what are the patterns that are there. That's what we do, for example, segmenting customers. That's what we call unsupervised. And then there are other situations in which we have a combination of both, like, for example, identifying anomalies. With that said, what we have really is a collection of techniques that are applied to content as well as syntax, meaning is the collection of rules about how to put the pieces together. The most recent and most famous these days technique is the transformer neural networks. There are different flavors of that, but the most exciting part of this is that we don't have to let the system learn with our rules. The system is able to learn without any explicit programming of what's happening or is going to be found in the data set. So all that is what is happening right now in AI. Now, if we look at the right side of our slide here, we'll see that what we do in FP&A is all about information and data, from data collection all the way to identifying content, making recommendations, and communicating. And the tools that we use can be really applied to recording information, to reporting, to providing intelligence to the content and insights, and then obviously partnering with our business stakeholders to provide content, insights, advice. So what is happening right now is that we have been using from the beginning nested dolls, spreadsheets, and some other tools for analytics. We grew that with robotic process automation, automating certain parts of the FP&A process. The promise of AI is that we can introduce through RPA, robotic process automation, more of the techniques and the results, the advantages that we see on the left. That is really what we're doing. So what I want to highlight next, in the next slide, is an example of something that we did at VMware over the course of a number of years and define certain things. First, patterns in the practice, the transactions that we were handling. Also, characterizing, classifying, segmenting some of our customers, and then defining what to do with that information. And for all that, we use the power of what is today considered AI, inclusive of data science, machine learning, etc. So the story here really fundamentally starts with looking at years ago transactions and trying to identify what products or services we were selling next to each other. And that really provided insights into really how the customers were starting to buy or negotiate with our sales reps. We then proceeded to, and you can see that story here in the red font, but we started then to segment customers in the way and partners in the way they're buying, looking at the volume, the type of negotiations, the frequency of those purchases, and so on. And you see, we didn't know much about them except what we had really in the basic demographics. With that, we ended up identifying really good clusters of activity, and with those is that we started to look at multiple scenarios. So AI here gave us the power to make massive numbers of simulations in advance of negotiations, and with that empower negotiators who could be part of finance, who could be part of even sales, to provide really the best price for specific line items or total deal negotiations. Obviously, this goes without saying that we have to really monitor the performance of all this. So sales audits became a really important part of all this. And again, we use AI to identify anomalies. So overall, you can see we did a lot of things all connected using either our own approach, simple things out of the box, things that were open source, like doing our own, building our own solution of that, or having our data scientists help with that. Obviously, there are some cases in which we have to use, but not that frequently, package offerings that provide that informational capabilities. So the takeaway of all this practice that we see in the next slide is that, first of all, we see that humans are still here and we will be here. So it's not like we're going to be truly or fundamentally replaced. Humans are underrated, as Jeff Colvin said in 2015. The thing is that AI is a technology extremely powerful that is still in search of practical applications. There is a lot of hype at this moment. There's a lot of focus in particular on the development of the infrastructure, the hardware, and the systems to handle that. But still, we need to evolve the models, we need to evolve the software, and based on the applications, we really need to go and define what is that we're going to do. And last, the data. Still, there are many issues with the data. We see that all this entire situation is in flux, and it's creating new risks, highlighting other risks that we have listed here. But the most important thing that we need to go through in the coming years is through the standardization of all these things to be practical. It covers areas like regulations and controls, covers areas like business practices, what is really okay and what is not okay to do in business for these purposes. And then the most fundamental part is to ensure that we have protocols to source, use, and protect the data. So the best applications today, and what we can see from the standpoint of what we see in the market at this moment, is the ability to connect all these dots you want. That is the promise of the transformer neural networks. So to end this conversation today, I just want to bring the example of the Tesla's autopilot. You can see the evolution of that very famous system that has a lot of elements of artificial intelligence evolving, but it has been, again, a lot of hype. It has a lot of potential. The technology is advancing a lot, but still, the technology is not applied properly. Therefore, the system is not really yet fulfilling their promise. And in any case, we see the technology advancing. So it's coming, be prepared, upskill, and still remember, humans are underrated.
Thank you so much, Alex. I indeed agree that humans are underrated, so no need to worry that much. And that brings us nicely to the first polling question. But before I ask you a question, what I wanted to do is to remind you that you can already ask questions to our panelists, use a chat box for that. And if you have any questions to Alex or any other panelist, you can do it right now. Let's start polling question. And the first one relates to expected outcome from the synergy between artificial and human intelligence? So let me launch this question and read it out to you. What is the main expected outcome when artificial intelligence is integrated with human expertise in FP&A? Option 1, millions of FTEs in FP&A displaced by automation, or improved speed and quality of existing financial processes. Another option, increased analytical capabilities and deeper insights. And the last one is shifting FP&A role towards more creative and strategic tasks. So let's vote. I see that many of you have voted already. Let me repeat the options. What is the main expected outcome of AI and human intelligence synergy? Millions of FTEs displaced, improved speed and quality of existing processes, increased analytical capabilities and deeper insights, and shifting FP&A role towards more creative and strategic tasks. Most of you have voted, so let me close this poll and share the results with you. So what do we see here? 41%. Most of you have voted for shifting FP&A role towards more creative and strategic tasks. Quite high number, almost equal, 35% voted for increased analytical capabilities and deeper insights. 18% are for improved speed and quality, and only 7% selected millions of FTEs displaced by automation. Alex, what do you think? Are you surprised by the results?
No, on the contrary, I agree with the selection. I couldn't really even choose between number 3 and number 4. I really think that what we see here is the opportunity to upskill humans, if you want, FP&A practitioners, and really take this you want heavy, unproductive, tedious part of our work, and then we can take advantage of the savings in those areas to focus our time and attention and energy towards the part that make humans indispensable.
Right. Thank you for your comment. And it looks like most of the people are getting prepared exactly as you advised us, but not scared of coming artificial intelligence. That brings us to the second presentation of the evening. Oh, before that, let's have a discussion all together. So please join me on the camera, all of you. And what I wanted to discuss with you is quite an important question. What do you think? What are ethical considerations that must be addressed when deploying artificial intelligence in FP&A? Let me start with you, Stefan. What do you think? What we should consider?
Yeah, so I think when you are looking at decision taking, there you should always look at the human aspect. So it would be dangerous if you just delegate everything to some artificial programs. So I think this is an ethical standpoint that you always should consider.
Right. That's one thing. Always take responsibility for decision, because who we are to blame if we just follow artificial intelligence? That's one aspect certainly to consider. What else? Greg, what do you think?
So from a technology perspective, I think every vendor who is developing AI technology must make it transparent. It's got to be trustful. It's got to be responsible. And they have to ensure the privacy of individuals. And that's really where I think from a technology perspective, those are the primary ethical considerations.
Well, yes, certainly. Data privacy, user privacy, that's certainly a very important aspect here as well. And back to you, Alex, what do you think? What are ethical considerations we should address here? A microphone?
I would add transparency on the data sources to determine really what is coming from the machine, what is coming from a human when we actually use the information and present it, and what is our information versus something else that's coming from other sources. That goes connected to the privacy elements, and really the fact that we are inside a company, we need to have our information inside the firewall, and we don't want any pollution crossing that firewall.
Right. Thank you for mentioning that as well. And now we can move on to the second presentation, second case study of the evening. So I would like to ask you, Stefan, to present a topic on ETH case study. So please go ahead and share with us your practical examples of AI application.
So thanks a lot, Olga. It's a pleasure for me to show a little bit some simple use cases of ETH. So if you look at different tasks in FP&A, like planning, analysis, business steering, or what else, you'll find a lot of different AI tools that could support these tasks. Predictive analytics, RPA, machine learning, and other tools. So the goal now is to show how what use cases we have looking at large language models, so how they could support us concerning different tasks in FP&A. You can go to the next slide. So the first example I show you goes into direction of business steering and administration. So I suppose you also know that there are hundreds of guidelines, rules, regulations, instructions within your companies. And what we try to do is simplify access and handling of all these guidelines. And with that also optimizing business steering. So we use a large language model. You could do it by an open source model, or you take, for example, GPT-4, and you feed the model by, or we feed the model by all our internal data, internal rules, internal regulation. What's important, of course, is with that we keep all the information within the boundaries of the company. So it's not public. Not all the information is public information. And another important point is language models, they have the problem that sometimes you find hallucinations or false prognosis. So it would be good, and this is what we try, is always show and quote the reference document when giving some answers to questions, so that everybody could check the answers whether they are right or not. So this is an important point, looking at such large language models. At the end, we are not yet there, is optimizing the user interface. So looking now at the example on the next slide, what we have is just a prompt window, what you find also in Google search or somewhere else. But for example, if you look at the second example, if you ask the question, how much can I reimburse for dinner during a business trip, you get an answer for that. So imagine you are on a business trip and you don't know how much you can spend when you go for dinner. Then you just enter the questions and you get your answer. And here you see it's 27.5 Swiss francs, but, and you see in the answer, you have the possibility to spend a little bit more if the budget responsibility person accepts this. So there are some differences within these rules. Now, what's the strength of such a solution? You can imagine, what are you normally doing? You are normally going into the website of your company or to your internal documents. You look at the right document and you try to find the paragraph where you then have to read where is written how much I can spend for dinner. So a complicated process. Of course, if you know it by heart, then it's not any problem for you. But if you don't know it, you always have to search hundreds of documents to find the right answer. With that, people just could enter the questions and they get an answer. And furthermore, you can imagine you can introduce much more complex regulations. For example, you can introduce a rule that differs in every country. You just enter your questions and you get the answer, or you make dynamic rules. They could change from time to time, and it's not any problem because people just enter the questions and they got the answer. They not have to read again the document because they just enter their questions and they get an answer. So this is quite an easy way of steering through all the rules and regulations you can do. And on the next slide, this is what we have to integrate. It's just the user interface, where a manager, for example, has his main tasks that he sees. And when you press one of these tasks, you find, for example, the frequently asked questions of such a task, and then you could just click on the questions and you get the answer. You could normally nowadays you can also program such frequently asked question side, but here with an LLM model you can do it in a dynamic way. So if you change the rules, the model, if you push the answer, the model creates every time the new answer. So it's a dynamical way, and you don't have to reprogram it. So you can use it very dynamically, and of course every people can enter its own questions if the questions is missing in the FAQ section. So this is just one way how we try to simplify administration work, and how we try to simplify or to optimize the steering within the company. The next example on the next slide here, it goes into analysis. So what we are building up is a graph. So this is just a database where you find some nodes. These are some objects that are related. You have interrelations, these are the edges, between the different objects. So in a university setting, as we have, so what we are interested in is our different questions about research topics. And so we program such a graph, and then we use a search engine. It's not Google, it's Elasticsearch. It's an open source where we can do the analysis. On the next slide, the goals of such an analysis is just we want to offer a simple way of making research about such questions. We want to have a single source, not having thousands of Excel sheets or lists. We want to reduce the time that is needed for making such searches, and we want to build up and use our own knowledge within the university of building up such models. On the next slide, our sister university in Lausanne, they already had placed this graph in place. You find it on the website. You can enter here some questions, for example, and if you go on the next page, if you enter the keyword artificial intelligence, you find a definition. You find all people that are making research in that field. You find papers that are published. You find also related contents like machine learning or deep learning and so on. And you find the courses that you can take for having educations within such a topic like artificial intelligence. Okay, this is just for this is now in a university setting, if you're where we try to simplify our time to find out who is making research in what direction. But just imagine again a company, for example, a sales department that is spread all over the world. You have hundreds of customers, you have hundreds of contracts, you have hundreds of meetings with these customers. So for example, if you put something in place and you want to ask yourself, just taking a specific customer, you want to ask yourself the question, who has interrelations with that customer, which contracts do exist, what meetings are there, you could find them at one glance. So it simplifies the way of doing research within a company. So that's also another way of simplifying the analysis within our company. So these are two examples out of ETH. I thank you very much for your interest.
Thank you very much for your example, Stefan. I really enjoyed that, and I'm pretty sure that audience has enjoyed it as well. I can say by number of questions related to your practical examples. We'll try to answer most of them at the end, but if you feel that your question wasn't answered, you can certainly connect to Stefan on LinkedIn and chat afterwards. Meanwhile, if you have questions, please do send them. We are picking the best ones for the end. And now let's move on to second polling question. So it's time for me to ask our audience which area will benefit the most from artificial intelligence integration. So let me launch this poll and read out all the options to you. So which area of FP&A can benefit the most from artificial intelligence integration? It can be automation of repetitive tasks and time-consuming tasks, can be predictive forecasting and scenario planning, or anomaly and pattern detection, or dynamic insights generation and storytelling. So let's see what can benefit the most in FP&A from artificial intelligence integration. Is it automation of repetitive tasks, or predictive forecasting and scenario planning, anomaly and pattern detection, or dynamic insights generation and storytelling? So most of you have voted already, so let me close this poll and share the results with everyone. So what do we see here? The most popular option is automation of repetitive and time-consuming tasks. Another quite popular option with 28% is predictive forecasting and scenario planning, and 18% for both of two remaining options, anomaly and pattern detection and dynamic insights generation and storytelling. Stefan, what do you think? Are you surprised at all?
No, I'm not surprised. I think it depends on the number of tools and applications that are already in place. For example, automation is also is very important for having efficient processes, and you see it all over different processes that FP&A applications are in place. So it's very normal that one knows about such tools. So I think it's a way of a number that it depends on how many solutions exist in different sections, and looking in the future, it could change a little bit.
Right. Thank you for sporting that. Quite an interesting comment from you, Stefan. And let's all discuss one more thing which I wanted to cover tonight, and that relates a bit to philosophical question. Is it still data-driven or more data-informed decision-making? I want to talk about in which areas AI enhances human decision-making and where does it fall short. And let me start with you, Greg, this time. What do you think?
Well, I think it even kind of relates back to the last question, Olga, where AI is about automation of tasks, finding patterns and trends that sometimes the human eye cannot detect. And that will do it. And predictive forecasting is great, anomaly detection, things like that. However, when it comes down to making strategic decisions, what scenario to go, what business scenario to take, what option, that really is something that human beings, FP&A teams, are the best people to do that. So.
Right. Thank you, Greg. Alex, what do you think? Is there still a space for humans in decision making after AI?
No, absolutely. We won't be fully replaced. I can guarantee that. Now, the thing is that we need to change. We need to adopt higher level skills you want. And for that set of skills, really AI is going to be very important. Thinking about multiple scenarios. Fine. Now that we have information, how is that we make sense out of that? Now that we have the summarization, how is that we're going to really detect, as Stefan said before, we need to make sure that things are correct, that there is no hallucination there. So still the human being is going to be there, but now we're going to compress time and be more effective at really identifying what is the insight than before.
Right. Thank you so much for that. And we'll certainly touch the topic of skills later on. Stefan, what do you think? Where is the still space for humans in decision making?
Yeah, so if you just look around, I think a lot of very important decisions are not taken fact-based. So you have political decisions, you have other way of taking decisions. So many decisions are not taken by just using the real facts, or even worse, that there doesn't exist any facts that you could use. And in all these cases, the human knowledge or the human factor is needed for making that.
Right. Thank you for all your inputs. And it brings us to the last presentation of the evening, to the technology part and how technology can help us in enhancing artificial intelligence. Greg, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Olga. And we're going to talk a little bit about the evolution of FP&A role, some of the trends we see, and then some of the the current technology we see out there that really can be even taken advantage of today by FP&A teams. So first, getting back to that first polling question where most of the folks said there will be a shift in FP&A and how they do. So what is the evolution of FP&A role in technology? So given the power of AI, as we've talked about today, and its likely role, it's likely the role of FP&A will be shifting as that polling question exemplified. But there's a lot of debate out there, but we can agree on a few things. One, it means less number crunching, which will leave more time to become a strategic advisor to the business, which is a great thing for FP&A teams. And because of this, it's highly likely FP&A skill sets will need to change, and that's something that Alex was just talking about, to meet the need of the new technology, and we've been seeing that across many of our customers as well. Ultimately, people in FP&A don't need to become data scientists, but we all need to see the need for them to become comfortable with this new technology. And last, it's all about task automation, becoming more efficient in everything we do, not replacing FP&A, but rather taking away all those manual, time-consuming tasks that many of us just become too bogged down with. And on the next slide, what is really, how does the power of the FP&A enhance the role of FP&A? So first, it's an engaging consumer experience. For example, like Netflix or Facebook or Instagram, it's all about achieving a personalized, better experience. And of course, automation, as we just mentioned, there's still much room for improvement, as we all know. Maybe it's report generation, variance analytics, variance explanations, forecasts, or automated notifications. Lots of places where AI capabilities can assist FP&A in their work. But ultimately, it's all about augmentation of FP&A, making FP&A even more strategic and helping making better decisions faster with more confidence. So what are the trends that we're looking at and what we see? First, overall, as you would suspect, because of the huge uptick in interest in AI, and Olga, you can shift to the next slide there. Because of the huge uptick in the interest in AI, as we've all been discussing today, there is an ongoing high investment in AI research and development by technology vendors, as you would suspect. And then from a trends perspective, we've seen a shift in planning across many of our own customers, where organizations are exploring more data-driven and exception-based planning. And this is where AI capabilities like predictive forecasting and anomaly detection can augment the work of FP&A nicely. Scenario planning, that was one of the big questions within one of the polling things that we just did. This is where AI has a big opportunity to drive more accurate scenario planning and help shift FP&A time from creation of plans to more evaluation and analytics. Broader use cases. Today, most vendors are focused on a few areas of AI capabilities like demand forecasting and time series prediction, but research continues to find more opportunities to assist FP&A, the FP&A function. And finally, generative AI. Many see this as a future, and the future is coming pretty quickly. So with all that being said, let's quickly take a look at some examples of AI capabilities that exist today and that are being used more by FP&A teams to augment their planning and forecasting activities. So first, data anomaly detection. This is a really powerful AI machine learning capability that utilizes time series prediction to alert planners if plan or budget data fall outside a normal or historical ranges. And these anomalies are then highlighted for users to analyze further. Usually an FP&A administrator will be able to set the upper and lower bounds for detection. Anomalies will then be surfaced based on the current plan data. And most importantly, the model will learn from user feedback to continually improve the process of anomaly detection over time. So essentially, this AI capability will significantly enhance a user's insight into plan data, as well as support enhanced data governance all around. The next capability that we see popping up, and this is something that Stefan had mentioned as well, is pushing the anomaly detection out one step further. Predictive forecasting supports the ability to generate a forecast over a specific future time period, for example, 2 or 3 years, based on historical plan data trends, and even external data if you want. So, for example, a franchised restaurant group might want to run a forecast to determine the number of people coming into their restaurants, which will then ultimately drive revenue, costs, salary, staff salaries, etc. In addition to using seasonalized historical data, they could also incorporate weather data, which could impact the number of people going out for dinner. We've also seen other external data being used in other use cases, such as marketing data, labor statistics, enrollment trends, etc. So the benefit of these predictive forecasting capabilities is augmenting FP&A teams and planners to create smarter and more accurate forecasts in an easily consumable manner. And then finally, the last technology that we see creeping up for FP&A teams is one of the more profound areas of technology and where technology vendors are exploring with AI, and it's all around generative AI capabilities. And again, Stefan had kind of mentioned some use cases around this. So for example, conversational planning or conversational AI are capabilities that combine the power of conversational UI and generative AI. So essentially enabling users like business managers to surface data insights quickly by entering text queries or search language within their planning application. And this even goes further by having the planning application recommend other actions a user can take, as well as providing machine generative narrative on metrics and KPIs that might be generated. So basically, allowing any user to have a conversation with their plan or forecast data within a very streamlined user experience. So as a recap and closing, AI technology solutions are designed to amplify, not replace human decision-making by providing recommendations and predictions that help people make even better informed decisions. Essentially, AI should fundamentally improve the way we all work and the nature of work itself. And finally, as we talked about before, this will only happen if technology vendors who are developing these capabilities are committed to developing responsible, trustworthy AI solutions. Thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to you, Olga.
Thank you so much, Greg, for your examples and for demystifying the role of AI here for us in FP&A. Let me invite all of the panelists to join me here on the camera, because what we can expect next is our key takeaway section. That's where we think a bit about the key idea of the whole event we want our audience to remember. What was this key takeaway for you? And let me start with you, Alex. What do you think? What is your key message today?
Key message is upskill, upskill, upskill. We need to change. The technology is coming. What we need to do is to harness the power of that technology to enhance what we can do as humans. So we don't need to become, as Greg said, data scientists, but we need to have a different mindset to take advantage of the progress made in this with this technology.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much, Alex, for this message for us. Stefan, what do you think? What's the key idea from you?
I would say stay curious about all the developments that are coming. So these tools and all developments could help a lot in making FP&A tasks. For example, you don't have to be a machine learning specialist, because nowadays tools are coming up where you don't really need to effectively program, let's say, a language like Python. So you just need to take your the different modules, and it's very easy just to work with such tools. But stay curious.
Right, thank you. And what is your message, Greg?
Yeah, I don't think I can top what either Alex or Stefan just mentioned, but to echo their point, AI is here. Capabilities are still going to be coming here for FP&A teams. Embrace it. Again, as Alex mentioned, don't need to become a data scientist. Just become comfortable with the technology and understand that really it's there just to augment your job, not take it away, and really embrace it. So that would be my takeaway.
Great, great. Thank you for all those messages. And it allows us to move on to answering our audience's question. Dear audience, thank you so much for so many questions. Today is really, really active audience. So let me start by the first question, and I will start with you, Stefan. This question, probably inspired by your examples, sounds like that. What role does artificial intelligence play in enhancing collaboration between finance and other departments? What do you think?
Oh, I think a huge role, because if you develop such instruments, you will always use such instruments all over administrative functions, not only over, let's say, if you go for some chat functions, for example, to use them for simplifying access to your teams, then you use such chat functions not only for finance, but you use them for IT, you use them for HR, you use them everywhere. So all these instruments you should develop together, cross-functional, and then you could include a lot of informations all over the different functions. So this will very much, it will go hand in hand all over the different functions.
Right. Thank you for that example, and thank you for clarification for us as well. Let me move on to you, Greg. What I wanted to ask, if there are any sectors or industries where artificial intelligence integration with humans was particularly successful. So can you say that there are some special sectors where artificial intelligence can help better, faster already now compared to some other sectors in business?
Yeah, well, first of all, I will say that every industry can take advantage of it, right? Because every industry is going to have unique use cases around predictive forecasting or Gen AI capabilities. So I think really any industry can take advantage of it. We've seen a lot of uptick across our customers, across retail, banking industries, several manufacturings, just because some of those use cases like demand forecasting and things like that are those typical ones that you'll see. So we see those kind of industries embracing it. We see high growth technology customers taking advantage of it just because they're in that mind space of taking advantage of kind of a more advanced technology. But again, every industry will be able to benefit from AI technology.
Right. Thank you for this answer. And I have a question specifically for Alex. I think it was inspired by your beginning and bridging together some artificial intelligence tools with the processes we do in FP&A. So the question goes like that. What are some common misconceptions about artificial intelligence in finance that you can clarify? Some common misconceptions you came across.
The fundamental one, I would say, is that we will take people out and bring machines in. And what I see really is that clearly it's not going to happen. Just think about, for example, how can we build our careers? We start with simple tasks after going to the university or college. Simple things that don't require a lot of judgment, but give us the exposure to really learn the trade, the practice, the protocols, etc. Many of those activities require repetition, and they are therefore prone to automation. So that is really usually the misconception that, well, we're going to remove those jobs and the jobs will disappear. Well, no, we still need to have the judgment and develop the practice to really identify if the machine is giving us what we need, if this is the right machine or the right tool, etc., to be used in this particular problem for this particular situation. So with all that, really, again, I think the misconception of just simply replacing people is the most popular if you want, but at the same time, it's not necessarily what's going to happen.
Right. Thank you for that. It's certainly food for thought. How are we going to train our junior people if we bring in so much automation. Thank you for that, Alex. And many questions which come relate to skills, and you mentioned upskill, stay curious. So if I summarize all these questions in one, what are the most critical skills we need to learn, we need to practice to stay kind of up, to stay in FP&A, and how can we upgrade them? So there are two questions in one. What are those skills and how can we upgrade them? How can we get them? Let me start with you, Stefan. What do you think?
For me, it depends where you want to work on. So, for example, if you want to really work into the development of certain tools, could be very interesting. Then you really have to dig into the details of some programming languages, of machine learning. Of course, data scientists and so on. This is always needed. So these are skills that are needed, but it depends on whether somebody is interested in doing such a job. This is one thing. Another thing for people working in FP&A would be just really knowing how to use different possibilities, different AI tools. So how to use them in the daily work, and how to empower with that knowledge the own work. So this is another way of having this kind of knowledge about the different possibilities, and the possibilities are growing in a huge speed. So this is very interesting then to stay up to date.
Right. Greg, what do you think? Which skills we need to practice, we need to upskill or gain completely new to stay up to date in FP&A?
Yeah, so I think, my perspective, I really think FP&A have those skills already. I think that, first of all, any vendor of technology should make any AI type of technology focused to FP&A folks as a personalized experience, right? And it shouldn't be that complicated in terms of utilizing. And so I think there's going to be a shift from, as we talked about before, from FP&A folks kind of moving away from the more manual tasks that they currently do, number crunching and all that sometimes they're comfortable with, and moving more into analytics and decisions and things like that. And I think skill sets that they already have and they've gone to universities for, and what we're all ultimately paid to do. So I think it's just a shift in what they're doing, and so it's just a moving of a comfort level from one area that number crunching that a lot of us spend a lot of time on, moving into more of that analytical type of area. So.
Yeah, right. So maybe it's a skill we already have, but we never had enough time to exercise.
You don't service it, yeah, right.
Okay, that's certainly a point, a valid point of view. Thank you, Greg. Alex, what do you think? Which are skills we need to gain and how to gain them?
Clearly, what we need to do is really first understand what is coming, is the change with the technology. So for that, I would recommend that people really start learning more about how data should be treated. It's not learning about program, it's really what is the source, what is the validity, what is the duration of that information, is perishable or not, how trustworthy is the information, etc. And then on the other side is that, CFOs are, and their organizations are the economic architects of the firm. So with that in mind, and the information that we have, really, we just need to take advantage of the opportunity that we have more details, more knowledge, quote unquote, but how we use it. So making sure that we really take advantage of that, and we explore, for example, with simulations, with scenario plans, etc., new possibilities, and that unleashes creativity. So data understanding as well as economic understanding of the firm generated, enabled by new data understanding.
Right. Thank you. I really like the phrase you use, economic architects of the firm. I'll certainly use it somewhere as well. Thank you for all these answers. We cannot answer all the questions, but I hope that we have time for the last question tonight, and that is a more philosophical one. How do you see a relationship between human and artificial intelligence in finance in 10 years? And I will start with you, Greg, here. What do you think? How it will change in 10 years? We're already now using a lot of it. So what will happen quite a long time?
Yeah, it's going to change a lot. But I think 10 years from now, we probably won't even having this presentation because it won't be new anymore, and we'll be moving on to the next thing. But I think that yeah, it's fast and furious. I know the technology vendors, you know, there's a lot of R&D money going into AI right now. That's a focus, and there's going to be a lot of capabilities coming out. So it's going to be shifting pretty quickly, but in a great way, as we all discussed today. So 10 years from now, it's just going to be a normal part of life for everyone, which will be a good thing. So.
Right. You scared me a bit saying that we won't have this discussion. I thought you would say artificial intelligence will be here as sitting and talking. So let's see what will happen. Alex, what do you think? What do you think will happen in 10 years?
Well, I really expect to see changes in the way we even conduct the practice of FP&A, but focusing more on and exploring the possibilities that are presented in front of us, looking at the future, being more predictive, more forward-looking, and for that, therefore, the tools that we see are coming will be more ingrained into the analysis and insights and less into just cleaning the data and all that stuff. That should really be, in the end, more hidden, you want, and therefore giving us the opportunity to really expand on the possibilities of what's coming up.
Right. Thank you for that. Quite interesting food for thought as well. And Stefan, what do you think? How our relationship with artificial intelligence will change in 10 years?
So I think FP&A will develop into much more strategic ways of supporting the business. So in an ideal world, but I'm not sure, in the ideal world, just transactional planning processes are just automated by these AI tools. So this is just the normal daily work is done by AI instruments, and you don't have to put on there a lot of manual work. Much more important is just discussing and preparing strategic decisions where the company or where companies could change their business or could change their products and something like that, where there are shortfalls just using AI. So I think this could change a little bit the way for FP&A, but at the end, I think even 10 years before, we already said it. And nowadays, if we're looking within companies, we still have traditional budget processes. So perhaps there will stay a lot more at the actual situation than we think at the moment. Perhaps.
Right. Nice comment from you as well. I hope that this bright future truly awaits us in this more strategic role of FP&A and less budgeting ahead. Thank you so much for being here. And let me invite our audience for the upcoming events in June. There are two quite nice events awaiting us. Mastering Analytical Transformation with FP&A Trends Maturity Model on June 12th, and another one, Digitized FP&A Business Partnering, the Formula for Success, on June 18th. So please join us at these events. Beside that, I would like you to try our FP&A Trends Maturity Model. It's a self-assessment tool, and it's certainly a good first step for your finance function transformation. Another big thank you to our technology sponsor for today, Workday. We help you solve your greatest business challenges. And let me invite you to connect to us. If you're not connected yet, there are multiple channels how you can do that. Choose the one that works for you the best. Thank you all for being here. Great thank you to our panelists for sharing your insights, for sharing your examples and your wisdom with us. My dear audience, please don't leave just yet. Please fill in our short survey. Our feedback will help us improve further. Have a great day and see you in June. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.